Buenas tardes, chicos. Vamos a seguir discutiendo de este tema de asking questions, haciendo preguntas, interrogative words. So, you already learned the interrogative words a dónde, dónde, y cuántos, cuántas. So, please look at the top right-hand corner. There's actually several interrogative words here. A dónde. A dónde, chicos, is what we would say when you're asking where someone is going, right? So we talked about the verb ir, the irregular verb ir, and we know that when we ask where someone is going, implying motion, movement, then we are going to use the word a dónde and not dónde. Dónde is going to be used when we're asking where someone is at. ¿Dónde está Juan? ¿Dónde está la cafetería? Now, there's a difference between those. Look at the right. ¿Cuántos y cuántas? So these interrogative words mean how many or how much. So ¿cuánto dinero tienes? How much money do you have? ¿Cuántos teléfonos hay en la clase? How many phones are in the class? So there's lots of ways that we can already use these interrogative words. However, we are going to learn some new ones today. So, some questions are formed by putting a conjugated verb after the question word. And you will see that over here. Okay? The question word is in blue while the conjugated verb is in green. And my third point I want to make is each interrogative word has an accent on the appropriate vowel. So, as you note, all the words in blue will have an accent mark above the appropriate vowel. So you just have to memorize. At this point, chicos, you really are not ready to understand the placement of accent marks in Spanish words, or on Spanish words, that is. So you need to know where that accent mark falls, right? And as you see, it's always on a vowel, okay? So anyways, let's look over on the right column now. We have a ton of question words. ¿Cómo? ¿Cuál? ¿Cuál es? ¿Cuándo? ¿Por qué? ¿Qué? ¿Quién? ¿Quién es? The ones that have parentheses, those have a singular and plural version. For example, number 2, ¿cuál? ¿Cuál es la fecha? What is the date? Okay. But if we have several things, right, then you would use ¿cuál es? So back to the top. ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo está Carlos? ¿Cómo estás tú? How are you doing? Right? So we're asking about one state. Tons of different ways we can use this. ¿Cómo? It's a question word. Tú, ¿cuál or cuál es? Now, as you may see below, ¿cuál and ¿qué both mean what? But we will find out on the next slide that there are specific cases when we use ¿qué and when we use ¿cuál or cuál es. ¿Cuándo? We also have ¿por qué? Y ¿quién? ¿Quién es? ¿Quién? ¿Quién es? Who? ¿Por qué? Why? And cuando, when. These words are indispensable. We just got to know them, memorize them, and we will now use them in sentences very soon. Look at the examples on the right. ¿Cuándo estudia Jessica? When does Jessica study? And as you probably noted, right, the verb precedes the noun, right, the subject. So using that technique from the first asking questions part 1 video, we know that we're now applying it. ¿Por qué va Roxana a casa? Why is Roxana going home, right? ¿Qué es? What is it, right? Right? So we're going to go over more examples in class, but just right now, understand what these question words mean. And finally, ¿quién? ¿Quién es? Habla, hablan. Con la profesora. I know that's kind of wordy, but the idea is who speaks with the professor or the teacher. And so you can say, ¿quién es la chica? Who is the girl, right? Someone walks into class, ¿quién es este chico, right? ¿Quién habla con el profesor? We have lots of ways, but right now it's just an introductory piece to know some question words. So let's move on. All right, a few more notes before we do another ejercicio. Sometimes que y cuales are followed by words other than verbs. Now, que can be followed directly by a noun, but cual or cuales cannot. So please take note of that, chicos, that the word que, it's a question word, can be followed directly by a noun, but cual and cuales cannot. Use cual for one item and cuales for more than one. I told you, some of these question words will have a singular and plural version. So if you're talking about one thing, it's going to be cual. ¿Cuál es la fecha, right? ¿Cuáles, for example, cuáles son los libros necesarios para la clase? What are the books necessary for this class, right? So once again, just depends if it's singular or plural. Look at the last 2 points. ¿Qué libro mira Jessica? What book is Jessica looking at? So this example, we're using que. However, down below, ¿cuáles de los libros mira Juan? So de is actually a preposition. It's not a noun. So in this case, we can use cuáles. And did you know that we are talking about two things? So cuáles is the correct question word for this. Which books is Juan looking at? Finally, chicos, ustedes van a hacer un ejercicio. Now, guys, you're going to complete this exercise by selecting which of the two question words is more appropriate. So, number 1, David, ¿a qué hora, por qué, es la clase de biología? So, based on the two question words presented, what do you think is the more appropriate one? Well, for number 1, it would be ¿a qué hora? David, ¿a qué hora es la clase de biología? Chicos, look for the logic, look for what is most sensible. For number 2, 3, 4, and 5, I would like you to select which of the two question words is more appropriate. For these, you do not need to write the entire sentence, just simply select the question word that is the better of the two.